It's time for some more speculation, and we're going to do that here today. I want to talk about two of the big things that have been kind of in the, I guess, community mind right now. And the first one is, of course, the Chaos Dwarfs. A lot of the data mining efforts from people have pulled tons of information for the Chaos Dwarfs as far as actual in-game voice of the advisor talking about basically the campaign intro for the Chaos Dwarfs. We've seen a ton of information from the loading screens, from actual in-game denotations of their factions, everything like that. So it's very evident that the Chaos Dwarfs are coming. And on another coin, I want to talk about Chaos Lords, or an expansion of the Demons of Chaos into the Warriors of Chaos, and possibly even Norsca in this video today. So what we're going to do is talk about my kind of speculation or supposition about what's going to come first. Is it going to be the Chaos Dwarfs? Or is it going to be a Warriors of Chaos, Chaos Lords kind of pack themed on bringing demons into the Warriors of Chaos roster, and thus maybe again into Norsca as well? That's what we're going to be, like I said, talking about today. I'll be looking at the map. We'll talk about kind of the current state of the game as far as what we're dealing with legendary lords, and how some of them, like Scrag the Slaughterer, can just kind of be unimpeded and take over portions of the old world. Or we'll talk about certain portions of maybe say the Demon Prince campaign, where it is a little difficult knowing that you have got nearly no real allies and you're pretty much just you against the Order Tide. Or even switching into the Darklands and talking about Boris Ursus. While a really fun campaign playing, as Boris Ursus, it feels a little hollow knowing that there's no real legendary lords out there. So that's going to be our subject here for today, and that's actually kind of the down and dirty synopsis of what we'll be talking about in my typical fashion of upfronting the knowledge. In my opinion, and here's, I guess, my hard take to begin with, and I'll back it up with the rest of the video. As much as I want Chaos Dwarfs to be the next and first DLC, kind of following suit with what we got with Warhammer 2, coming with Warhammer 2's launch, then we got Mortal Empires about a month or so after, and then we got the first campaign pack with the Tomb Kings in the following February after launch. I as much as I want, like I said, Chaos Dwarfs to be that first DLC, that first campaign pack, and I still think they'll be the first campaign pack, I think the first DLC and first Lord pack for Warhammer 3 would be a Chaos Lords DLC, simply because I think it would really help out a lot of the things that are going wrong with the western portion of the map, and that includes Norsca, that includes the Chaos Wastes, and also at the same time the Old World. So I'll support all those claims. So that's my upfront kind of thesis statement, if that's all you really wanted to know about this video, because the rest of it is me just speculating and talking about things. I'm going to be drawing on a map and a bunch of other crap. So if you don't want to stick around for that, I totally understand. Feel free to head on out. But before you do, don't forget to like, comment, and or subscribe. I cannot tell you guys how much that truly does help out the channel. And if you've not yet picked up Total War Warhammer 3, you can do so using the Nexus link the link to my Nexus store in the description. Nexus gives you a Steam key directly from the developer, and it is a great way to support the channel. But let's get started here on which DLC will be coming first, Chaos Dwarfs or the Warriors of Chaos in Total War Warhammer 3. But to start us off, I want to go into the Chaos Dwarfs. And like I've said before, this is my choice as far as of DLC I'd like to see first. I am extremely hyped up about the Chaos Dwarfs as far as all their possible unit choices, everything like that. I will be doing a full kind of roster speculation video, like I've done plenty of times in the past, like with Grand Cathay and the such. But two of the big standout things that have been pulled from the data mine are, one, a briefing about, like in the campaign intro from a non-chaos towards a non-chaos dwarf. It's probably to Boris Ursus, and then an actual campaign intro for the Chaos Dwarfs. Now this is pulled from the files, and Mamba King put it on his YouTube, so please go and check out Mamba King's channel. He has he's got both videos and then like a video of both put together. So we're going to go ahead and play the first one here. So here you go.
Exercise caution, my lord, for your scouts bring word of Chaos Dwarfs nearby. The Legion of Asgore are a callous and black-hearted foe, bearing little resemblance to their untainted cousins to the west. Keep your weapons close at hand.
So, before we start the next piece, that definitely, to me, sounds like it's going to be added into Boris Ursus's intro. Because he says, you know, his cousins to the west, that would be in the World's Edge Mountains, which would be west of the starting location of Boris Ursus. And the Legions of Asgore, the Dawi Zar, would be to his east. I mean, we've seen that Zar Nagrund is already on the map. It's just inhabited by greenskins right now, and it is right there to the east. And a lot of people are thinking, you know, well, that's just the only place the Chaos Dwarfs could start. Nay, they could start just north of that in their little port city. Well, kind of port city. They've got a ton of locations south of Zar Nagrund. So there are plenty of places all throughout the Darklands that the Chaos Dwarfs could be starting. And like I've said before, Boris Ursus's campaign feels a little hollow because it's you just pretty much painting the Darklands in the colors of Kislev. Your closest opposition, as far as legendary lords go, is Grease's Goldtooth in the Mountains of Morn, and he's really not going to be coming down towards your way, really. So you're really just dealing with a bunch of NPC factions until we get more fleshing out of other characters entering this region. Let's go ahead, though, and listen into this Chaos Dwarf intro, or supposed intro here.
Your malign kin are cold-hearted and merciless, mighty lord, bereft of pity for any so unfortunate as to cross your path. The merest word of your approach is enough to cause lesser beings to flee. All shall fall to the Dawi Zar.
So there we go. I mean, that is clearly an intro there for the actual campaign start for Chaos Dwarf. Now, that could be Astaroth, that could be any of the other characters, and that's another cool thing, is that the Chaos Dwarfs have quite a few characters to really jump into. You've got a guy riding a bull centaur. You've got a guy in basically dwarf power armor, more or less, as he becomes more and more turned to stone as he uses the lore of Hashut and whatnot. So you get a whole custom lore in the lore of Hashut. So there's a lot of really cool, fun stuff coming with the Chaos Dwarfs. Well, supposedly coming, I guess, coming in bunny ear quotation marks. So we see other things like the loading screen telling us, hey, you know, the forgers are lighting up and things are getting wild over there. We see references in the game database for a treasure hunt _ Chaos Dwarfs. We see plenty of different ways that the Chaos Dwarfs are already evidently put into the actual game files. Now, whether or not that means that they're on the horizon as far as the next DLC, it's hard to say, right? I don't know how Creative Assembly kind of precedes their files into the game, but I would hope that if it's already there right now, it means it's going to be closer rather than further away. I think that's kind of everyone's general consensus here. So I think as far as an overall placement, it would be a lot of fun, and I'm really stoked for the Chaos Dwarfs again. Like I said, you've got the defensive capabilities of the Dwarfs mixed in with monsters and other kind of chaff units too, because they have a whole bunch of crazy lore going on with them. So I'm very, very excited, and I think, like I said, this should be the first DLC. Let's now pivot into the Warriors of Chaos as a possible Lord Pack DLC, and why I unfortunately, well, I guess not necessarily unfortunately, why I think it will actually be the first DLC we'll be getting. So here we have the actual map of Warhammer 3. And we're going to be doing some fun telestration stuff. I'm going to be writing on this so it makes it a little bit easier to follow. Usually I just move the cursor, but a lot of people have said, like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's hard to see. So hopefully this will fix some stuff. But going over this, we have kind of random pockets of density as far as action goes in the campaign, right? A lot of big action happens right here. Across both Norsca and Kislev, right? We get a lot of big action right over here, across a lot of the Cathayan factions and a little bit of Kairos. But when we look at the map, and I guess also we get some action over here between both Skarbrand and Nakari, but one usually beats the other out. And depending if you're playing one of those, that's the one that's gonna win out, right? In my Demon Prince campaign, Nakari has almost the entire Northern Chaos Waste, which is kind of wild. And again, this causes a lot of landslides in certain locations, right? Like the entire old world gets controlled by Scrag. And like I've said before, this entire region gets controlled by Boris Ursus if you're playing as him. He won't appear on the map otherwise. And this location over here really kind of gets dominated by Grease's Goldtooth. And this location seems depending on what character you're playing, if you're playing Scrag, if you're playing Scarbrand, if you're playing Nakari, or if you are playing Kugoth, the power dynamic in here can shift. If you're not, one of the three completely takes over the Chaos Wastes. So what I think the map needs, more than the presence of Chaos Dwarfs, unfortunately, is the presence of a power dynamic shift in possible lords brought in from Chaos. And these would kind of be probably socketed in locations that would stop certain lords from taking off. And if we're thinking about adding in a Warriors of Chaos themed DLC, what I think is particularly important about that is it has the chance to bring or bridge the gap between the Demons of Chaos roster and the Warriors of Chaos roster. Because when we look at a faction like Nurgle, it's just so hindered right now by not having the presence of any Chaos Warriors that can be maybe a little bit more faster, hold the line maybe a little bit differently, whatever it is, do more damage towards anti-large, stuff that really Nurgle's army suffers with, right? Or when we think of an actual DLC themed on Warriors of Chaos, it gives us the chance to do another balance pass on who, but the biggest daddy of them all, Kairos, right? He is just so strong. And Tzeentch is so strong right now, and I think that this gives us a chance to give him a little bit more of a fine-tuning, make it so Barrier has different applications other than just being the rapid health replenishing life force that it is right now. And the big question is, though, how does this work? Like, how do we put all these things together? And the nice thing about Warriors of Chaos in any part of Games Workshop's IPs, either 40K or Warhammer Fantasy, is you've got like 5 million characters to pull from, right? We've already done a video here on Village the Curseling, but we have Festus. We have got other big Slaanesh characters. I mean, there's obviously going to be Sigval, but you've got people like Azazel, other characters of the sort that you can actually socket in there. So there's plenty of different characters to have fun with. And I think the biggest one that most people want, if they said, hey, we're only going to add one Chaos Lord, would be Valkia, right? Valkia is my favorite Chaos character that is not a demon. So putting those characters into the world would make a lot of sense, especially if you're playing as either the Demon Prince over, what is that? The Demon Prince over here, let me erase all of this. The Demon Prince over here, you really kind of have a sticky situation because you've got Norscan factions right here who really just don't do anything. You have some Norscan faction, I think it's right over there, is another Norscan faction, and they don't really do much. Yeah, they'll start to kind of harass into the old world and into Kislev, but you're really dealing with a huge order tide, as it were. And anyone who's played that faction knows that you're pretty much just dealing with this outright aggression from Kislev the second you start. And I think that a Warriors of Chaos DLC gives us a chance to finally get that Norsca Old World update. They have said that Norsca is getting that update, so it would be a great way to leverage that. Say, hey, yeah, we're doing something with Warriors of Chaos to combine Demons and Warriors of Chaos rosters into specific lists for specific characters, or maybe give access to certain warriors into certain demons and vice versa. Like, however they want to imagine that. And I have a whole Warriors of Chaos DLC speculation video coming up, so don't worry about that. We'll go into finer details, but I think that this kind of gives a chance for, rather than Demons of Chaos to exist as a siloed feature of Chaos, they actually start to bring marks and respective bonuses to the Warriors and Norsca, because it's what's needed, right? And those factions now feel so flat knowing that the Demons of Chaos exist. And Norsca as a whole feels just kind of like paper when you compare it to all of the might of any of the other demon factions, of Kislev, of the Demon Prince. And it's like, why would I even want to keep them as an ally or vassal if I could just take their lands and then control them? So giving us maybe, and this is, I just really thought of this right now, this is completely harebrained, but maybe even the thought of being able to, as the Demon of Chaos, as the Demon Prince Yuri, being able to confederate Norsca and then give them a mark, like, hey, just like you would do for a specific settlement, you can say, I've confederated this specific faction of Norscans, and I give them all the mark of Khorne. So now they all have Khorne attributes like Frenzy, Immune to Psych, and all of them have specific stuff. It maybe gives you specific units, whatever it is. I would love to see something like that, because you get a mission to confederate, and you can't confederate anyone. So maybe they've done that on accident, or maybe they've done that because they had prepped for something else to be coming and it's not there yet, so it doesn't give them the option. And I think that a lot of this could all be done by, say, let's go with a cooler color here. So okay, Valkia the Bloody, right? Well, you could put Valkia. Oh wow, that's a huge thing right there. You could put Valkia right here in the Giant Home Mountains, because she does have a huge interaction with Norsca, right? She is seen as this Valkyrie style of character. And by putting her in the Giant Home Mountains, around where the Krakadrak Dwarfs are, this gives another very significant legendary lord to fight into both Kosteltian and Katarine, but also gives you a little bit of insulation if you're playing as the Demon Prince. And maybe it just kind of helps with dealing with these two factions that are not really going to be necessarily totally helpful. So you do have that option for, say, a Valkia. Or if we're talking about Village could be placed, I mean, yeah, you know, you could put him in Averlin around here, but he could also be placed right over in this location, because he does have a big interaction with Bretonnia in the lore. And placing legendary lords, we've seen that placing legendary lords can oftentimes curtail the way the AI can just kind of go to town on everything. And it might have to do with the way the auto-resolve works for AI. I'm not too sure what the hell causes Scrag to just take control of everything. But putting him here gives a chance for Scrag to get like a natural kind of opposition as Village would expand out in this direction, also giving another person to help out, at least on a diplomatic stance, the Demon Prince. The Demon Prince is, unfortunately, his closest allies that are really worthwhile are on the other side of the Frozen Sea or Kraken Sea, and they're not really that great anyway to begin with. They're not going to jump down and help out. Scarbrand's not going to swoop down and help me out when doing anything. Another big one here could be Festus. And Festus, I mean, we could have him start somewhere here in the World's Edge Mountains to kind of give some sort of tantalizing play for the Big Daddy over here, for Boris Ursus, or even throwing him far flung and abroad, because we do have a lot of interaction with Cathay and with Nurgle in a lot of their portions of the lore when the Bastion gets cracked open. Maybe putting him here somewhere in the Mountain of Morn with a direction towards Cathay would be pretty damn fun. So having that would be a great boon. And even further, if we're talking about Azazel, and I'm using Azazel rather than Sigvald, but Azazel is the one I'm going to have in my speculation video. But another fun one could be Azazel, or again, Sigvald, and putting him in a location that maybe is right over here, where maybe not Kadatha, because I have a plan here for Kadatha actually. So we'll erase that. Okay, there we go. But again, this one could be one that's actually in the Darklands, or one that's a little bit more in the Mountains of Morn. Whatever really Creative Assembly has in mind, I think is good, because placing these characters around adds more spice. If you look at, like I said, those kind of hotbeds, this location gets a lot of fun, this location gets a lot of fun, and this location gets a lot of fun. But by and large, this swath of the map has pretty much unimpeded movement for Greasus, Kairos, and Boris in certain directions until they hit another legendary lord. Whereas, again, over here, these legendary lords are a little bit more butted up towards one another, and it kind of stops their rampant growth. So this is, I feel like Charlie Day and Always Sunny in Philadelphia right now, just drawing on a fucking map like an insane lunatic. But still, my point here is that while I think Chaos Dwarfs are a lot of fun and I'm really excited for them, I think that adding a power dynamic to fill the vacuum of power for Warriors of Chaos would be pretty substantial, and I think it would really kind of help out the current mood of the map. It does kind of beg the question, though, at this point, that if you did add Warriors of Chaos as far as a Chaos Lord DLC or whatever it is, are they Demons of Chaos, are they Warriors of Chaos, how's that going to go on? You'd now only have four order factions, 2 neutral factions, and then like what? You'd have 5 total Chaos factions existing now, plus however many they would add with this Lord pack. Let's just say there's 4 gods, so they'd add 4. That's 9. They'd have 9 total Chaos factions against all this order and all this neutral. The argument is, again, of course, that Chaos doesn't necessarily work as well with Chaos unless it's the same exact god. But it's a very interesting dynamic that I think that the Chaos Dwarfs don't necessarily fill or fix very easily unless they want them to start, or some of them to start outside of the Darklands. If they decided to put them in portions of the Chaos Waste or in Norsca or in the Old World, or maybe one all the way in Cathay as some sort of thing towards their black powder, that could work. But as it stands, I think that any location you choose to put a Chaos Dwarf currently, let me get a color here, that would be Zorn Ooze Cool. You get your Dawi Zar, would be right around there. You've got that location. You've got the Howling Waste that's right about here. I think the other one's like right there. So like these are like the locations you'd put Chaos Dwarfs in this map, more or less. And it, like I said, it is cool to fill the map with Chaos Dwarfs, but it's not going to affect the grander campaign map in a way that I think the Warriors of Chaos is needed. So now that I've gone back and said the same thing 4 times, tell me what you guys think in the comment section below. Do you think it's going to be Warriors of Chaos? Do you think it's going to be Chaos Dwarfs? Do you think it's going to not be either and it's going to be another Order faction or another neutral faction? Go ahead and let me know. I think let's actually be totally honest. The first actual DLC coming from Creative Assembly, it's going to be Blood. That's this whole video is stupid. It's going to be Blood. But after that, then we should wonder what that actual first DLC is going to be like. They have said they're going to be giving us a roadmap, giving us an idea of what is coming. So be on the lookout that for hopefully in the next week or two. They said it's going to be shortly after launch. And now we're going to be coming up on a week of launch on this Thursday. There's been a ton of issues as far as stability and patches, so hopefully those will be addressed first amongst everything. But again, guys, go ahead and let me know in the comment section below. Just wanted to have some fun, baseless speculation on what I think might be coming, or at least chronologically how it might all work. But as always, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.